Hi, welcome back. It's Froggy Friday. Today we are making a super cool frog. This is my party frog. Let's add some glitter alcohol ink to the resin. It's not a party without glitter, right?
Party time! Excellent!
This is a weekly collaboration that's hosted by several really cool people from some really great channels. I will have the playlist in the description. Please don't forget to go watch all the rest of the videos. They're all amazing artists. I am using Let's Resin's Crystal Clear Epoxy Resin. It is a regular setting 1:1 epoxy resin. And I'm not pouring the whole frog. I'm just doing probably a third of it with this clear resin. I'm going to put some glitter on it later, and I want to make sure you can see that through the top of the frog. Froggy Friday is a weekly collaboration hosted by several amazing artists. The playlist will be in the description, as usual. Please make sure you stop by the other channels. Watch that playlist. It's full of fun makes. You'll enjoy it. Party Frog was left to cure, but not fully all the way. It's set, but it's still tacky. And I did that on purpose because I want to put some glitter in it. So I'm just pouring it straight in. Since it's tacky, I figure it's going to stick to it pretty well. You can see it is sticking for the most part, but there is that part right in the middle where it's not quite as sticky as the rest of it. That makes sense. That's actually the deepest part, so it's going to cure the fastest. But I end up having to do another layer of resin with this glitter in it because since it was tacky, it was still soft. I didn't really have a good way to fix that. I couldn't really drag a brush with glue along it or anything like that. So I figured that was my best bet to add more glitter and make sure that I don't damage Party Frog in the process. I do want to brush out the excess glitter, but I have to be careful. I don't want to dislodge the resin that's already in there away from the mold. If I do that, any subsequent pours that I do have a chance of leaking down underneath it. The resin is not green, I'm just reusing a cup. So I decided to add some glow glitter into it. I'm not really sure if you're going to be able to see it, but I figured it's Party Frog. Of course she needs a little glow in the dark action. I'm using the Let's Resin epoxy again. I'm using the heat gun to try to thin out the resin a tiny bit. Wow, we are having an incredible thunderstorm right now. If you can hear that in the background, not usual for the Central Valley in California. Anyhow, I wanted to try to thin out the resin so I could release some of those bubbles. A lot of bubbles were created by mixing the glitters. I'm just distributing the epoxy evenly. And one thing I forgot to mention is that I did actually lift up the back end while it was curing. Yeah, I forgot it was tacky and definitely took away some of that original epoxy. But I lifted it up because I wanted it to be slightly angled. I didn't lift it enough. I should have done more. Here it is all cured. And we're ready for the next layer of resin. Again, using the same resin, and I'm going to be adding in this neon pink pigment. I figured neon pink with glitter and glow in the dark is perfect for Party Frog. The pigment ends up looking fairly orange after I mix it in. It's not as orange as it looks like it is on camera though. Just to be safe, I add in some pink resin dye. I don't know how much it helped, but I think it still looks okay. Now I used my heat gun there because the pigment does not want to mix in. It's clumpy and gritty, and this is pretty common for neon pigments. It's also pretty common for glow-in-the-dark powders. And there's the resin dye that I used. Any pink resin dye would work. Again, I don't think it added much, so I'm not sure I would bother. I am mixing the crap out of this, trying desperately to get it to mix in better, and it just doesn't happen. I even spray alcohol in it, hoping that that might do the trick, and it didn't work either. Okay, I don't know if you remember these from the 80s, but this color reminds me of those jelly shoes. Those were terrible. If you wore those, you know what I'm talking about. The foot sweat was unreal, and then you went sliding around the whole time trying to take your steps, ended up with blisters at the end of the day. Those were awful. That was a terrible invention. So I go around trying to dislodge any bubbles that might be there, but I always end up with micro bubbles under the chin. And I decided to remove a little bit. This mold is actually not super level. The back leg on the right is lower than the rest of the mold, and I didn't want it to overflow while it was curing. Okay, so Froggy is all cured. And I'm noticing there are definitely bubbles. She did not want to come out of this mold. I don't know what the deal was. But there she is. The pink definitely looks more orange than pink now in the back. I'm kind of disappointed by that. Froggy kiss. So now we need to get Party Frog ready for her party, and I decided I'm going to start by putting a flower on her. Frogs don't have ears, so I'm going to put it behind her eye. I've used these before, so I knew that they were a little bit too tall, so I cut it off. Now I'm painting on the eyes. I decided to use pink to match her. So I'll do one coat and then I'm going to let that dry. While that's drying, I'm going to put other embellishments on. Since the frog is shiny and I want to put something on there with UV resin, I'm going to rough up the surface using this little sanding block. It's technically for buffing nails, but it works really well in this situation. And there's my UV resin. And yes, I am reusing that cup for the millionth time. I could not keep that flower in place. It was sliding all over the place. So unfortunately, you can kind of see bits of the UV resin but you really have to be looking for it. Is she a party girl? Yes, but she's a classy one, so she's gonna have a glass of wine. I have these tiny little glasses of wine. I don't know why I have them. I got a bunch of miniature stuff and I thought this would be really perfect. So I placed it in between two of her front toes and put some UV resin on it. I basically just flash cure everything at this point. I give it a quick cure so that it doesn't run, but she will get a full 5 minutes under that UV lamp at the end. The second coat of paint is going on now, and while that's drying, I go ahead and look for some other things to use. I had these glow-in-the-dark stones, and I thought, well, that might be cute as ice in the cup, but she's a classy frog. She's not putting ice in her red wine. But no judgment if you do. Not a problem. So I'm coating her eyes with UV resin to make them shiny, and I really only cured that one for like a couple seconds. I want it to remain tacky, I just didn't want it to drip. What I'm doing now is I'm placing a glow-in-the-dark 4-pointed star as her pupil. I felt like her toes needed something, so I added some really small black rhinestones with some UV resin. I only did the front toes in the black. I sped this up for you because you've seen me put toes on a frog like 8,000 times by now. You can see the other rhinestones there in the like flower shaped container. Totally forgot about those. Those were neons. So I used the pink on the back toes, and here she is, all done and ready to party. I'm not thrilled with the orange, but I think it's okay, and I definitely think she is super fun, super cute, and ready to have a very good time. And there are her little eyes glowing. I love the glass of wine. She's inviting all of her friends there to the party as well. I hope you like my party frog. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for hopping by. I'll see you soon.